Welcome to the Sound Mind Strategy Podcast with your host, Evan.
And Anina Blankenship.
This podcast is aimed to be an in-depth discussion between husband and wife power couple where we take on challenging topics in the mental health and wellness arena.
By trade and training, I'm a licensed clinical social worker, certified professional coactive coach, USA Cycling National Champion, and I love to push my limits both physically and mentally.
As for me, I am currently in a master's program for sport and performance psychology, where I'm also on track to become a certified mental performance consultant. I've also been coaching athletes for the last 5 years, helping them reach their truest potential.
We're both very passionate about athletic performance, mental skills training, spirituality, and we love to take a holistic approach to helping people find harmony in their mind, body, and spirit.
We believe that there's greatness inside of everyone. Our mission and the mission of this podcast is to help you unlock and operate within yours. Hello, everybody. Welcome back or welcome to the Sound Mind Strategy Podcast. This is episode number 16. We are excited to be back with you on a wonderful Sunday morning here in St. Louis. This is Evan, and I'm with my wonderful, lovely, beautiful wife, Anina.
Hello.
How you doing? How you feeling?
I'm feeling well. I'm feeling much better. And yeah, as you all have probably heard me talk a lot about the pregnancy and everything. And it's the nausea is like pretty much dissipated and just more tired than anything. But I'm realizing and having a peace with myself that it is completely, fine to be tired. No judgment around it.
Completely normal.
Yeah. Growing a human in my belly. So it's,
You're practically a pro at this already. I mean, you could probably write a book about pregnancy.
Yeah.
No, I think it's really neat. It's
it's been good.
It's like, man, we're moving through this so rapidly, it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that, to me, it's that looming feeling of like, oh my gosh, I still don't know anything. Like I'm still so clueless. But it's fun. I think we're just taking it step by step. There's some big key things that we know, some big boxes that we know to check every single day.
Yes.
And then taking in lots of advice and mentorship from others that have kind of paved the way and gone before us. Some obviously friends and family. And so it's been fun. I'm really, enjoying my part of it. So
yeah, and it's been good. And I got to go to Bye Bye Baby with some friends this past weekend, and that was fun just to really help narrow down what to get, and okay, this is kind of probably not worth your time and money. And so that was really helpful. I was so thankful for that support from my friend, because it was like, it's a little overwhelming walking into baby stores because so many options.
When I went with you just that first time, when we kind of just found out, we're like, well, let's just stroll through there and kind of wrap our brains around this. And it was overwhelming. I was like, okay, we got to get out of here. Mm-hmm. But it was really good to go with. You came back and said, how much you learned, or she was able to kind of like say, no, this is worthwhile. This, maybe, but don't waste your money on that. It's kind of gimmicky or whatever.
Exactly. But, that was nice. That was really nice.
Yeah. So it sounds like we're narrowing in on some of the things that we need, some of the things that we don't need, some of the things that we want to try or whatever. So that's really cool.
Just being more decisive.
Yeah. Summer's winding down. I kind of have this feeling of this. I get it every year. I don't know if you do. It's probably common with a lot of people. It's just that like panic rush feeling of like, oh my gosh, there's only so much summer left, and I've been inside a lot and just loungy and relaxing, and I haven't taken a big vacation, and I haven't done summer stuff. And it's like I got to get out with friends and go out to eat on patios and splash around in the water.
Get it all in before it all goes away.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I just feel this panic almost comes over like, oh, wait, we're in the middle of August. I got to hurry up. But
slow it down a little bit.
Yeah, I just got to like remember, like, just live life, like if you're meeting
Exactly.
friends, the weather's going to be the weather, whether it's hot, cold, whatever. You just
So true.
do something that accommodates that.
Exactly. And there's more to it than just the weather. It's like the weather's nice. It's nice to have good weather being
Yeah.
outside, but there's more to relationships and
Yeah,
Then that
I
have
think
to
that
remind
feeling
myself.
comes on from like school days, like when you were on summer vacation. But like
yeah.
anymore, it's like life is, you're still working the same amount of hours. Like, yeah, you have more sunlight, but I don't know. That's always just been a weird feeling for me. So
Yeah. So you're learning to still kind of slow down, it sounds like. And
yeah, I do feel like I need to enjoy the outdoors a little bit more. It's really strange, like as this identifying cyclist, like go do my ride, and then I kind of like just like to just
back in.
veg out and relax. It's like, but I kind of want to be out doing more things, exploring. Like we mentioned the mountain bike ride last week. I just want to start running again and do a little bit, or just be out in the woods, and even if we just hike and spend more time, get Cooper out and do things like that. So.
And part of it probably is too, like your workouts you're doing sometimes are pretty intense. And so then you're probably kind of tired and want your body to relax, and to get up and go do something feels.
Yep. And that's true.
hard.
And sometimes like just from a safety standpoint, from a time efficiency standpoint, some of the workouts, like even in the summer, just beautiful days, like it's just more convenient to do it inside. So I'll do that and then feel like, kind of like I'm shortchanging myself on the weather, but enjoying the sunshine and stuff. But I don't know, like if I feel good about what I'm doing, I think that's okay.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah. But yeah, there are some people like, babies coming, times are changing. Like we're kind of in this big transition in life. And, so then I think there's that extra rush of like, okay, we want to go see these people. And, but beyond the rush of summer rush, I think there's just, we have come to a point of like, we say, hey, yeah, we should get together. And I think we've kind of hit that point of like, you know what, we say that a lot and we tend not to follow through. And it's always with the best intentions, because we would love to.
Exactly.
It's just, we just let life go by. So we're getting on that. So like,
made a list of people that we've
like,
said,
hey,
let's get together.
We're going to go do dinner or whatever we said that we would do.
Yeah.
Like, if we're getting out for a ride, or if we're getting out for just hanging out or getting the dogs together, we're doing that.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
your
Following
phones will be
through.
ringing if we've said that.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And there's so much value in that, I think, too, of like following through with your word. And I think it makes you feel good instead of just aimlessly saying, yeah, let's get together. And it's like, well, when I say it, I mean it. And I am going to be expect a call.
Yeah. We've been in both scenarios where you say those words like, yeah, that'd be great. Like, I know as soon as those words come out, I have no intention of doing that. Or the other scenario is like, no, I really want to. And it's just like, and then you just let time get in the middle.
Yeah. It's like making space for it, because it's something like that's not always in your routine to like go out here and meet this friend. So it's like you have to like make space for it too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and one more thing. Like, so most of you know that I was an ambassador, or I am this year for 2019, and an elite level ambassador with Oatroot. It's a really cool organization that put on these. They have several 3-day ones and a handful of 7-day cycling tours or rides in these really iconic locations, beautiful locations. They're hard. I mean, it's a lot of climbing, and but they take care of you. You're always staying in like beautiful places. The food's fantastic. Massage after the rides. So I extended my ambassadorship with them for 2020. So I'm really excited about that. If you have any questions about it, like feel free to go to their website and check it out. Research the tours and the rides where they're at. They're all over the world. Plenty in the US, tons in Europe and everything. They're opening up more and more. So it's really cool. If you're interested in those and you want to go, or if you have any questions about them, feel free to reach out. I'll give you some more information, and can also hook you up with a special rate also. So feel free to reach out and we can set something up. And then I guess kind of want to talk a little bit about our house hunt. This kind of just leads us into
The topic for today.
yeah. So we're talking with our coach. We do have a coach, work closely with a coach, and kind of going back and forth on just like our house hunt and why it's taken so long.
Mm-hmm.
How long have we been looking for a house?
Over a year. Yeah, it's been over a year. So it feels like it's been quite a while. But yeah, over a year. So
Why do you feel like it's taken so long? What are your thoughts?
I think there's a couple things. Like for one, it's just trying to figure out what location we want to be in, because we really like St. Louis, but then it's, the prices are a lot more expensive here. And so then we kind of like oscillate between here and Illinois side, like Edwardsville, Illinois side. Yeah. And so I think that just like the indecisiveness of like, where do we actually want to live? Because we see things that we like in both of them. And so I feel like that's kind of kept us stuck, because we're not like focused on an area. It's like we just are kind of going all over the place, it feels like, trying to look at homes, and it can be kind of exhausting. And then I think just also just trying to figure out like income level too, like what we can actually like afford and what's going to stretch us. And so I feel like we've kind of gone back and forth about what we can like realistically do each month.
All these things that we want, all these things that we say we need, and then
it changes like from week to week, I feel like.
The actual number we have to spend.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Right. It's like our wish list and our like legit list.
Yeah. No, that's true. I mean, and it's so easy. I mean, hopefully maybe this is just us, and hopefully not, but maybe. When you're shopping for a home or a place to live, whether you're renting or buying, and you're flipping through everything online, and it's just so easy to just like, well, I wonder what this, an extra this much would get me, and then I'll go ahead and click that up again. Like, oh, now okay, yeah, wow, these are beautiful. And once you start seeing those, it's so hard to like readjust to like maybe the actual level,
it is
back to reality,
It totally is. It's almost like, don't do that, because that just like, I feel like it just makes us yearn and want more of that. And it's like, but that's not where we're at right now. But it kind of keeps feeling kind of stuck.
It's kind of like that. I think the ones that we really liked, say in Edwardsville, but we really love it here in St. Louis, right? It's like, then you have that fear of missing out. Like, oh, well, and then you can think of every single reason why that's not a great idea.
Yeah.
And then you find one here in St. Louis, and then you really love it. And then you start thinking of every reason why it's not a good idea. Well, it might stretch us a little bit past financially, or maybe school system isn't quite as good, or whatever. I mean, whatever your list would be, same kind of scenario, we find ways to talk ourselves in and out of a situation.
We do, which I think is like perfect to talk about, since that's what we were going to be.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect segue into the topic of the day, which is indecisiveness and how to become decisive. So how do we transition our indecision into decision?
Exactly. And I think we all know when we've been indecisive, how that feels. Like it's a lot of confusion, right? Like we know when we're hem-hawing around and can't make a decision, how that feels for us. But when we make a decision and we feel confident about that decision, how we feel, how our mind is thinking, how our posture is, it's like a totally different way of thinking and being when we're sure and when we're not sure.
Right.
And and
Absolutely.
I think it's totally normal to go through those periods of our life where we're just like not totally sure, but by not making a decision, you're making a decision, right? Like
in essence, you are.
You are, right?
Yeah.
It's like when I had that like light bulb moment, it was like, you're right. By me saying, I don't know, or whatever, I'll figure out in a couple months. It's like, well, you made a decision right there. You're saying you're not making a decision, but you just did.
Yeah. I mean, we all have, every day we're faced with moments of apple or banana, turn left or right,
right.
Stay in bed, get up, all these little things, or big ones, buy the house, don't buy the house, Edwardsville, St. Louis, all these decisions. And if you get to the point of like, I don't know, just wait, like you just made a decision. I mean, it's not always only two options. A lot of times there's many options. So by taking zero option, that's also an option, right?
Yes.
So you just made a decision to do nothing.
Exactly. I know, like.
And that offers what? Nothing. No confidence is built through that.
No confidence built. Exactly. Because I think there's a lot of growth that happens when we make a decision and, maybe things don't turn out the way you envisioned it to turn out. But looking at like, what did I learn about this situation then? Like what did I learn about myself? What can I do next time if this were to happen again? To just really prepare yourself and grow yourself for what lies ahead. But it's, I think too, getting stuck in I don't want to make a wrong decision. And I think that that's really, can be a trap, because when we're thinking that there's a wrong decision rather than am I learning or am I winning kind of thing. Like if you looked at things like that way, at least for me, it's helped. It's like, am I learning something here? Am I winning? Just instead of thinking like, wow, I really like messed that up, or that was a poor thing to do.
You bring up a huge point. Like, I still think there's so much confidence to be gained from quote unquote making the wrong decision, right?
Yes.
Because now I have experience, and I have the opportunity to learn, grow, and realize I didn't get that hurt.
Exactly.
Like, so if you go option 0 of indecisiveness, no decision, you don't learn, you don't grow, you don't gain experience, and what are you left with? Stories that you make up in your head of like,
true.
Oh, if I would have made that, then this would have happened. And you have no clue.
And you have no idea.
Literally no idea.
Yeah, and that's so true. And it makes me think about a lot of times, and my coach pointed this out, and I was so thankful of, I say, I don't know a lot. You ask me a question, I don't know. And it's almost like it's become this automatic response. And the more like you pick it apart, it's like you keep telling your brain that you don't know something. So what do you expect is going to happen? Like probably nothing's going to come forward to your brain because you keep telling your brain you don't know and expecting to get a result. And so it's really been helpful for me because I almost am like, oh my gosh, I say it a lot. It's almost like it's like a placeholder. Like I don't want to think about it. So I'm just going to say, I don't know, because at least I'm giving you a response and feel like I'm making a decision because I'm telling you I don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
And it almost feels like, oh, I'm being very open and vulnerable because I'm admitting that I don't know something.
Right.
And that's admirable. But really, it's just like, no, he's asking you to think critically.
Exactly.
Right.
And sometimes there may be times, and I'm catching myself too, if it's like, if I don't know, like truly don't know, it's like, you know what? Let me think about that and get back to you by such and such date.
Let's work through it.
Or let's work through it. Like, so there's accountability of, I don't know. And then I never go back to like rethink about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that accountability piece too, which is nice with having a coach and being able to share this stuff with you too, Evan. Cause then it's like, okay, let me get back to you on that though. Cause you can't expect ourselves just to know everything. But I think to just discredit automatically.
No, I think it's great. And now that you let me know about that conversation, it's not in a way to like hold you to it negatively or think that like, oh, to trap you, but like we're getting to the point of making a decision on the home, or at least area. I think that's the biggest part, like choose an area, get rid of some options and some decision making. And I said, okay, without saying I don't know, let's have a conversation about this and think and think critically. So
yes, and it makes me think too, like just a simple fact of what if I were to look at my decisions as, if I have two options, like imagining that both of them turn out to be amazingly wonderful, like everything I wanted, like both of them.
Oh, so kind of like taking away the right or wrong, pass, fail.
Exactly. Yeah. Almost like, what if both these decisions could be amazing and life-changing and then which one would I choose? So almost
cool.
like...
That's an interesting way to think about it.
Yeah. It's like, so the brain is so cool to me, just how you could like flip it and you could really look at it a little more critically than just
Yeah. I mean,
good, bad.
I don't know, maybe just for conversation purpose, we can kind of stick with the house, or maybe we can kind of give examples about diet or whatever, anything. But anyway, for us with the house, it's just like St. Louis, Illinois. And so it's like both of them can turn out great. Like they'll look different. Like if you don't like the school, you can do private school, or, baby's not due till February. You still have a handful of years before you're forced to make a decision. You can move again.
Totally.
Or whatever. Life will happen between now and school time, and a lot of decisions can be made. So that doesn't have to be a finite decision.
Exactly.
Now, paying for the house starts immediately, right? So that's something that you have to think about much more critically. Then you have to think about safety and whatever your key things are. If it's size of home, cost of home, neighborhood, different things. These are all things that we had to
really consider.
Yeah. Like what lines up with us.
Exactly. And as seeing is that both of them could be great and amazing. Both options.
Yeah, they're going to look different, but both option could be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, you can see the good in both kind of thing. Yeah, and just kind of back to like the indecision, it just makes me think about how much time we're wasting when we're not making decisions. When we're not making a decision, all those all those life questions. Should I get married? Should I not have a baby? Should I not? And it's like, before you know it, it's like 12 years have gone by.
12 years have gone by, and you've finally decided to have a child.
That's us, if you don't know what I'm talking about. But and I think just that indecision too, I've noticed for myself, keeps me in
I think that was just a practice makes perfect. It wasn't indecision at all.
Exactly. But yeah, and just thinking about being in this indecision always makes you feel like, at least it makes me feel like I'm in this constant state of limbo. Like I have one foot in, one foot out, and I just never quite know.
So non-committal. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's just like, this is exhausting when I think about it.
Well, back to the house example, like how many wonderful places that would have been great for us have we just let slip by due to indecision? I don't know. It's really nice, but I'd be missing this, or,
right.
So you don't, like, we've put an offer in on a couple, and I was really surprised that we even did. But at the same time, it was just like in the back of my mind, I hope that falls through. I hope they don't accept it. Like I don't know, because then I might miss this.
Right. Yes. So. And I think it's important too to like figure out what helps you, because I know for me, and I think you too, like it's helpful to discuss things out and also to like write them down. So then I can see like, both sides of things too. So I can like actually physically see it on paper. So it's not just floating around in my brain. Like it actually,
Both sides. What do you mean?
Yeah. So I can see like both sides of something, like see like the two sides of things that could go really well. Like living in St. Louis or living in
like
Illinois.
A pro-con list, or
like a pro-con list, or looking like, I think that's helpful to do.
Pros here, pros there.
Exactly. Pros here, pros there. Like almost just like having that list out so I can see like the value in both places.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that has kind of helped me is like understanding what I need, what I want, what I expect. So that just is a governing thing. And then it would just be down to which location checks more boxes. Neither one are going to be perfect. Maybe they will, but so it's just like a mathematical simple thing. Like, well, this one's 7 out of 10 and this one's 5 out of 10,
Right.
So it's like, okay.
Kind of nice to be able to see that.
But even that doesn't mean you're stuck with the one that has more, like, of the, say the one that has 5 out of 10. Well, maybe you weight a couple of those much heavier because, maybe one has your absolute priority, but the 7 is like 7 cool ones, but missing a key one, like an asterisk. That's a high priority,
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So those are different things. Like whatever system you want to use, develop one, be thoughtful and use it. Like if it makes sense to you and it's going to help you lead to a decision in a timely manner, use it.
And use it. Exactly.
Yeah. There's no, I mean, I'm sure you can research and a ton of different methods on how to make decisions and how to find a home or pick a diet or, pick an exercise routine or a career path, something to study, whatever. There's all these methods, but it's got to make sense to you.
It does.
And if it comes from you, if you generate it, you're going to have a lot of confidence and feel good about it.
Because you have some stake in it and some heart and time that you put into it. And I think moving from once we make a decision, it's like, okay, it's time to get moving. It's like, okay, so I made this decision, like us, we made the decision we're going to move to look in Edwardsville. And that's where it's going to be.
So you just said that. How did we get there? What were some of the steps that we took to say Illinois, Edwardsville, Glen Carp, that region? We kind of know the region we want. How did we pick that?
From my perspective, it was like we were looking at okay, it's going to be closer to family since our families live in Illinois.
Having a baby.
Yeah, having a baby.
Moving 45 minutes closer to them.
Right. Good school districts there in Edwardsville. We already know people that live there. And
we know people here, though.
Yeah, we know people here, too. Yeah, so that was kind of like we know people both places. Also, the riding, like being it maybe more safer, being able to be more of the country and not so much city riding.
Yeah.
Kind of what comes to me. Like
a lot of the riding and the team I ride with, they're all here.
Yeah.
I'm just giving you some of my counters to why it was hard,
Right.
And then it came down to well, do I want to let something like cycling dictate where I live?
Mm-hmm.
And, some of it, yes, some of it, no.
Right. Like what can
safety,
I give and take?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I still go ride with those guys? Absolutely. Maybe just not as frequent. It might just be, I might have to drive to them instead of riding to meet them, instead of leaving from the house. Or, you might ride with them less. And how does that make you feel? And is that okay with you,
Yeah.
So, we have a weekly training race every Tuesday, and we all meet up and ride to it, ride the race and ride home. And it's just a fun, long Tuesday evening. And now my Tuesdays, if we move there, will look very different. I can still do it. I would just have to drive to it. It's not an impossible distance. It's just a different way now.
Exactly. It's kind of like our perspective on how we look at it,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think too, once we start making that action, just being really kind to ourselves that things aren't always going to go the way we want. May go back into that feeling kind of, I don't know, and feeling indecisive, but kind of like you were talking earlier. Would you share that about the mindfulness, how that?
Yeah, I just, before we get there, I do want to mention one thing, kind of what really helped me make a decision on the location.
Yeah.
So I was talking with Coach, and we were laying out some principles about we're laying out options, laying out home costs, school differences, different things like that, commute difference, because it's further, so that's something. What really hit it for me was when he asked, what are your goals? What do you want? You have short term. So I'm thinking in my short term, it's just in the transition of life. It's still about a year-ish are my short term. And then I have some 5-year, because I kind of don't really want to stay Midwest area too long. I would love to explore the option of moving. Obviously I'm not going to do that if you don't want to, but it's something that I would explore and want to explore. So with that in mind, each location is temporary, right? Mm-hmm. So and where we're at with growing business, I think obviously baby wins, but right beneath that is financial needs.
Right.
So that was a huge thing. Can I get more of a house that we want for less money? Because that lines up with my long-term goals. I have to be mindful on finances, so that is what really did it for me. Is just I feel like that's a smarter move. I know the area, I'm not losing The only thing I'm really losing are some conveniences.
Right.
You know what
From
I mean?
being here. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, okay.
So kind of
And
having you look at your short-term and long-term goals was kind of
I
more
think that's
eye-opening.
really how, yeah, it was. It was just like what lines up with my goals. Because those are unshakable. Those are predetermined. I determined those. I laid those out. So now everything that I do between now and when goals are met needs to line up with my goals. Is this going to take me closer to my goal or further away from my goal?
Right.
If I have cycling goals, if I have nutrition goals, is this lining up with it? Is it within my goal strategy or outside of that? Is it one of the like, what's okay? I'll make it up. Like, no, don't. Just
Right.
stick with the plan.
Exactly. Yeah. And I like how you envision that. Like, is it moving me closer or moving me like further away kind of thing? That seems like it could be really helpful.
Yeah, because every opportunity we come into is going to be that.
Right.
Right. Every single thing.
Very true. Yeah.
So, mindfulness. You brought that up. So I wanted to get back to it.
Well, yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Yeah. So kind of how the decisiveness and kind of our talk
Prior to this today. Yeah.
So anytime we start a new thing, like we're creating new habit, right? Whatever it is we want to do. We kind of tied this to the practice of mindfulness. So in the practice of mindfulness, just a really simple thing is we're connecting you spend time, and I guess people that know or don't know, but maybe it's just you might have an idea of like, oh, you're just supposed to sit quietly and think about nothing. That's not necessarily what it is, but like you do sit quietly, and there's going to be periods where you just focus on the breath, right?
Yes.
And you notice when thoughts come and go. And sometimes your focus and attention leaves the breath and kind of goes to random thoughts.
Right.
Right. So it's not that you failed in that moment, but the true success in the moment is to bring an awareness of your focus shifting.
Yeah.
And to bring it back to the breath. Now, the same thing would be in this indecisiveness or in creating new habit is to notice like I've drifted away, like instead of saying, getting on yourself of like, oh, I'm not doing what I intended to do. Like, So we're saying, I did 0 out of 100 times was old pattern, right? But I want to create this habit. And well, now, like if I do it the same way, but I'm noticing I'm doing that more, and I kind of bring myself back. What was a good example I used? Like, let's just say we were talking about walking Cooper and the boundaries that you have with him. Like he acts differently on a leash with me than he does with you.
Yeah.
And I think you have floating boundaries with him, like depending on your mood. And I don't. When we're on a leash, you will act this way every single time. I'm not strict. I'm not mean, but I just have boundaries.
Right.
Right. There should be no tension on the leash, but I also don't want him like out in front of me. He should walk next to me, loose leash. So he pulls you a lot more. And so I think like if he pulls you 100 times on a walk, it's just like, and then the next time he pulls you 100 times, but you have a much better attitude about it and lower frustration and able to be mindful and just say, I'm practicing and working towards that. That's progress.
Yeah, it is.
Or if he pulls you 99 times, but it's not about perfection. It's just like being mindful in that moment of what I'm working on. It's not to be perfect.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you explaining that too, because I feel like it does just really couple so well with this, just about what we're talking about today, and just allowing ourselves that time and space to grow. Because if we've been so used to, I don't know, and I take months to make a decision, it's like just looking for those little glimmers of where you have made a decision and just like focusing on that and noticing where you've made decisions where typically you wouldn't have.
Yeah.
And just realizing it's just going to come and go, and like not judging yourself, like just, yeah.
I think like that whole idea, like floating boundaries and tying things to not sometimes making decisions based on goals, sometimes making decisions based on mood. Well, I feel really bad, so I'm going to binge eat, or I'm nailing this goal and then be super strict, and just having that kind of back and forth and back and forth. That's what creates indecision. That's what creates just a feeling of stuck.
Yeah. And you make up a good point of too, that makes me think that sometimes when people feel stuck or not making a decision, it's like they'll do other things. They may, like you said, they may overeat, they may drink, they may do this or that because they're just in this constant, almost like shoving down their emotions, not addressing things because they're still in this I don't know stage.
Yeah.
So it's like you kind of compensate with other things that like kind of give you this, I don't know, like a little high, or just kind of give you something to like preoccupy your mind with, so you don't have to like think about it, we just kind of keep that confusion going. So, and I think also just looking at, once you make a decision, I think it does, and you tell me what you think, I think it helps when you make a decision, and you stick with it, of the way that really can help build your confidence too. Cause it's like, okay, I made this decision, I stuck it out, and maybe everything didn't go as I wanted to, but like we talked about earlier, the things that I learned through this, the information I've gathered since following through with my decision, the impact that can have on us. And I don't know about you, but I know for me, when I've made a decision, sometimes it's like I say it and then I'm like, oh man, but then I start thinking about this and thinking about that. And not to say you can't do that, of course, but it's like, just keep gathering that information, I feel like. Yeah,
I do think there's a lot of power, a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience to be gained with following through.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I want to be aware of, in the midst of following through or pursuing a decision, if we realize it jeopardizes safety or crosses a boundary that we had set, that really does need to be an unforeseen thing from the beginning.
Right.
And it can't be like a cop out or a bailout, like, oh, it's getting scary,
Exactly.
But I do think there should be some recognition of like, this jeopardizes safety. This jeopardizes an absolute that I had set prior. I made the decision and I'm moving towards it. And now I'm learning, like you said, learning new things by walking in that decision, where it jeopardizes one of my absolutes, like a safety issue or whatever. And that's when we can just say, nope. Okay. And then that's when and I think that's when people would say, well, it was a failure. And it wasn't, because you pursued something until you learned real information to not pursue it anymore.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
And that's not a failure. I think that's that's wisdom and, a lot of experience, something that you can pass along.
There is. And there's so much learning and growth there, like we said before, I think, when you do that. And kind of like what you said earlier, just I think having those like clear goals of what you want, future and, long-term and short-term and long-term, and just your boundaries, all that comes into helping you make that decision. Which, it's not always going to be easy, but knowing those, I think, can really help.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that we wanted to talk about, or I did anyway, was this whole idea and concept of decision fatigue.
Yeah, that was a good point. Yeah.
So the best way to think about it is the grocery store, in my opinion. Or even a lot of department stores. So you go in, you have all these choices, 100 bags of chips, 100 kinds of breads, 100 kinds of cereals, what kind of anything do you want? There's so many options. You can't just go pick a condiment. You have to pick from a million brands, and of that brand, even, you have a million styles. So it's just, by the time you're done, and you get to the checkout line and you've been good and you said, okay, I'm on a diet, or I'm eating well this week or this month or this whatever, and I didn't get any cookies. I didn't pick up that chocolate bar or whatever. And you get to the checkout line and they got, oh, it's the perfect size. It's not going to cheat me too much. And okay, fine, I'll just get it. I throw it in the cart. And then you get home and you're like, why'd I do that?
Uh-huh.
And you eat it and you're like, because they know. I mean, they know that they have worn you down
Exactly.
over the course of your shopping and that you are just fatigued.
Exactly.
Your mental capacity of making decision is worn down. And that's why they put those grab things there. It's not because they're like, oh, we thought you might have forgot it and we're making it convenient.
Right. It's never
like,
things I would have forgotten.
No, we're trying to get an extra $10, $15 in that cart before you leave.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this is the way I think about it. Going to the grocery store, we all know what? Don't go hungry, right? So, I mean, this is just for that example, but take a list and then have have it predetermined. Today, nothing. Like stick to the list, or today, yeah, grab a treat, predetermined one treat and let your mind wander, be enticed. And it could be fun that way. Like stick to the list plus one grab item.
Exactly. Like you've made the decision. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah. And you feel good about it. And you then it's fun to let things pull you and oh, I like that. And then when you get to the next one, yeah. And then swap them out, as long as one and oh yeah, okay, no, I want that. So I think it's kind of fun to do that. Like I've done that and feel really good about it. And I have no qualms with getting home and enjoying that treat. Or the other way, when I put 0 and I just bang, 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 stick to the list, in and out, no time. And it's so easy to just shut off all those easy grab items.
Right. And you think it's like you're saying too, the essence of this is because you made the decision before you went.
Yep.
Exactly.
I did my work. I did the work prior, knowing this is what I'm walking into. Mm-hmm. They are trying to wear me down, trying to get me to snag a million extra things, but I did my prep. I ate well beforehand. I know my goals. I recited my goals. I'm eating right, getting my weights going down, strength's going up, whatever your goals are.
Yeah.
I got this race coming up. Stick to the plan. And you feel good about walking through, and then you get to the car and you didn't get anything extra. You stuck to the list, and you're like, yeah, I nailed that one,
Right.
And
you feel good.
That's the confidence
Very
that
confidence
we were talking
inspiring.
about.
Yeah, because it makes me think, I'm sure we've all gone to the store. I know I have. I don't know what I'm going to get. Oh, I don't know. And the next thing I know, it's what I do know is I have a lot of junk in my cart or just things that are not helping me get closer to my goals either. And I know this is a total tidbit, but I love, Evan had showed me this a couple years ago and it made so much sense to me, is on my list writing at the top of, I have little headers. So it's fruit, veggies, grains. So then it's I know on my list, this is where I'm going first, this is where I'm going next. And it helps me stay away from cause I don't have the chip pile on my list or the snack as a header. It's just I kind of
avoid it. Yeah.
Exactly, stay to the outside, like they say, right? But it's kind of my road map.
Shop the perimeter.
When I get there, yeah. This is what I'm shopping for today, and but yeah. So, anyways, that's kind of
I think
helpful
that's
side note.
really cool. No, that's helpful. I like that too. I think because just back to that example, when are some of the worst times? When you get to the car or you get home from shopping and you're unloading it and you're like, oh my God, what did I do?
Right.
But going into that, I'm a little hungry. I need to go shopping.
Sure what I want. Yeah.
The house is empty. I better just swing through the store, and you buy the store, literally buy the
exactly.
So it's those are some of the worst times.
Yeah, exactly. That's very true. Yeah. And I think too, when we're even thinking about to making decisions, sometimes it's kind of well, I don't know, kind of that whole thing. How do I decide? How do I get myself out of this confused state or I don't know state I'm in a lot of times? And
yeah, how do we do that?
Yeah, and I think it is this kind of for one, just like slowing down and just really getting clear on what is important to us, what is going to line up with our values and our goals, like we talked about, and then just like considering everything that we may be putting, like consider all the limitations that we may be putting, on ourselves when we're trying to decide what we want to do, and almost like just taking that mask of confusion and limitations off of ourselves and kind of looking like what I said earlier, like what if both decisions turned out amazing?
Yeah.
Like looking at it from that perspective maybe, but just sticking to what you've decided you're going to do of that goal, taking, of making the decision, then taking the action, and just really noticing how confidence inspiring that can be for you.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I know one of the ways that, because I am still growing a lot in this area, but indecisiveness was like a big thing for me. And I didn't wear it as a badge of honor, but like I almost just kind of flipped it and tried to wear it as a thing that was positive, because it was to the point of like, I'm such a good researcher and I'm so critical and analytical about things that I don't have enough information to make a proper decision. But when I really came down to think about it, that time would never come. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I would research something to the point of like, if I'm buying something, let's just say I'm buying a camera or whatever, and I would research, and I finally think I got it figured out, and a new model comes out. I mean, that's how long I'd literally wait. And then is that one now the one I should get? And I would never get one. Instead of buying one they're all good,
right.
Like just buy one, learn how to use it, have fun using it and exploring it. Like, and that was the thing. I would just never make a decision. Well, what school should I go to? What should I study? Well, what bike should I buy? Is this worth it? Is that worth it? And just like, and I have nothing.
Exactly. It's just this constant like pattern of stuck.
Except I have a head full of just, like I don't feel good about myself because I haven't made a decision. I'm not experiencing things that I would like to. So it's just like, and then when I finally do, then it's just like I've worked myself up so much about it. Then it's just like, I don't experience things normally and enjoy things normally because I've worked it up into this huge thing. You know what I mean? Instead of just like being a lot more organic and experiencing life.
Yeah. So it's like you're saying you see like the value and it's okay to research things because it's like you're informing yourself.
I think that's wise.
Not to get stuck in that, like, well, I'm still researching 2 years later.
Yeah, and that just comes to the point of like nitpicking things to the absolute death. To like to be, you're giving yourself a reason to stay indecisive.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's very true.
You have to move forward.
You have to move forward. That's right, and that's where the growth comes, and it can be hard. But I want our listeners, if you're have pen and paper handy just to write some of these questions down, because I think it can really help you.
Don't do this if you're driving.
Yeah, exactly.
Pull over.
Nina told me. This is a helpful question I think that can help you just to kind of move forward is, what do I think 10 years from now? Like, what would my future self tell me to do? Yeah, I'm just kind of asking because sometimes that's more of we can kind of really tap into that older, wiser, more experienced person. Also, another question is, what would I tell a family member or friend that was going through the same decision or trying to go through the same, trying to make this decision? And I think the value in that is sometimes it can help remove us from like our minds for a minute and think about, because sometimes, we can offer the best advice to other people and, not so much to ourselves. So when we think about, what would I tell my friend to do in that situation if she were asking me, and then it's like, oh, well then, hey, can I tell myself that? Like, hey, let me turn that around.
Yeah.
Also kind of just asking yourself, like, what would I love to do in this situation? sometimes that can really help you just consider like, what would I really, really love? And what am I yearning to do here? And then another one is what moves you towards, who you want to be. So just, what moves you towards who you want to be? That
kind of is similar to like, how does this line up with my goals?
Exactly.
Because obviously you set goals for who you want to be, how you see yourself, and also the you in 10 years, the you in 5 years, the you in 1 year, whatever your timeline goal is.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think that's a really good way to answer that, so you can look at it both ways. Does this line up with my goal? What do I love to do? What would I love to see myself do? What would my future self tell me to do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think those are really great. Like, that's awesome advice.
Yeah.
That's really good advice. If you're more like me, I think start with those questions. But if you are more like me in the regards of like, well, I just got to research things. I got to just know. Give yourself a timeline. Just say,
I like that.
Like say I'm researching a purchase, cars, camera, whatever, a necessary or a fun item. I think the fun items are even harder because you can suspend those indefinitely.
Right.
But if you want it, like, and it's doable, and the family says okay, give yourself a timeline. Like, okay, you got 1 week. Friday, you're making a decision, and you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
We're buying a car this time, or houses are kind of different because, it's, you are waiting on other people and stuff like that. But at the same time,
you've done your part, what you can do up to that point, and sometimes you have to wait on others. But that's a really good idea, I think.
I think for me, it's very helpful, like, or to realize timelines. Like if you want to do something, say classes start for a thing you want to learn, like, well, I'm not waiting for the next. You have to decide: do I want to do it? Do I not want to do it? Register. Or however that works. Vacations, book one. So
very.
I think that's been really helpful to me, is to identify and stick to a timeline, and that's and using the questions that you lined out really helped me move forward by answering those and saying, okay, cool, yeah, I'll do it, or I won't, or I'll move option A or B, whatever.
Yeah, and I think to even add to that too, I think there's a lot of value in posting it somewhere, like writing it down and putting it on your fridge or where you're going to see it, or putting a reminder on your phone, like this is the day, or telling a family member, your coach, like this is the day I'm challenging myself to make the decision.
Accountability. I mean, you can never go wrong with more accountability. I feel.
Yeah.
One of the ways that I do feel is a limiter, and you can actually end up getting stuck from it. And this is another thing that I've learned through a lot of experience, is asking others what they would do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then like, hey, what would you do with this? Or what do you think about this? And you get different answers, or even if everyone gives you the same answer, but it might not be with the answer you want, or whatever. Like you just start building stories, and like, well, if I do something different now, what do they think? Or, just take that with a grain of salt. But for me, I have found the more I reach out and ask for advice on things from, in my times of indecision, it's really not been that helpful.
Yeah. It sounds like it still keeps you stuck. Like you're not really feeling.
It's never really led me to a great decision.
Yeah.
I think if you have a coach in place, or it doesn't have to necessarily be a coach, but just someone that's fine. But I think you need to do the work personally. I think that's a really good way to avoid doing the personal work.
Exactly.
The inner deep work of asking yourself those questions. How would I feel about this? How would I respond to this? How does this line up with my goals?
Yeah.
And I think the more you can tie it to yourself, the better off you'll be personally.
You will be, because I think you're going to have a lot more confidence in, like, this was mine. It wasn't what 1 through 5 person told me. The first 5 people told me to do. It was like, I made the decision, and this is what I decided. And like you said, there's no problem with, speaking to a coach or a wise counsel that you trust and just bouncing ideas off. But like I think you said, have a plan already. So when you're going to them, it's not just,
Well, what's the biggest?
tell me what to
What's
do.
the biggest reason that you would ask for advice? Personally, I think is I have someone to blame if and when it fails.
Mm-hmm.
Not my decision. So and so said I should do that, and I did it, and it didn't work out.
Exactly.
Not my fault.
Hands off. Not me.
my fault.
Yep.
And so we're afraid of taking fault.
Yeah.
And it's not fault. Like we discussed, it's experience, it's knowledge, it's
Mm-hmm. And
still
I think
gaining confidence.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly. I think it's confidence too. It's like, I don't trust myself enough to make this decision or know what to do. So I pick you. You tell me what to do.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Now, I think we hit a lot of really good stuff here. I don't know. Is there anything that you feel that we missed about transitioning from indecisiveness into decisiveness? Being decisive.
No, I think the last thing I just want to leave people with is that and I think for me, it's just to understand that it's going to feel scary when you're making a decision and you've been so used to not making decisions. But I think that shows yourself that that you're on the right track, because it is something new that can be really scary if you're not used to doing it, and just noticing and understanding that that's going to help you grow in the long run. So kind of still feeling that fear. I've heard it before and doing it anyways, but you're still feeling it, acknowledging it, and not letting it hold you back. I think has been a good reminder for myself. And just knowing what it's going to do. Ultimately, it's going to save me time and increase my confidence and growth, and just more action in my life, just taking more action instead of staying.
And isn't that what life's all about? Because you're experiencing more, right?
Exactly.
That's awesome. I think that's a great place to leave it. Make decisions, be active, live life. Right?
There you go.
That's cool. I think that's a perfect place.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you have any questions about anything that you've heard here today, about decision making or being stuck in indecisiveness, we'd love to talk with you. We'd love to kind of reach out. If you need some one-on-one talk, that's cool. We're 100% open to that.
Yeah.
If you have anything that you'd like explored, any topics that you would like us to discuss on the podcast, we'd love to hear about that.
Yeah.
So please feel free to reach out. You can find our contact information on the website. That's soundmindstrategies.com. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram on Sound Mind Strategies. You can also reach out to us personally. I think I'm on Instagram probably the most out of any of the platforms.
Same here.
You too? Yeah. So I'm Evan_Blankenship on Instagram, and you want to go ahead and plug yours?
Yeah. So we have the Sound Mind Strategies on Instagram, and then also Anina_Renee.
Perfect.
Yes. And one last thing I want to leave people with too, or just ask, is if you found things that have helped you become more decisive, please do share that as well, because we are continuing wanting to learn and grow as well, so we can help ourselves and help others. And so if there's something that's particularly worked well for you that we didn't mention, please share it, because
that's perfect. I know when these podcasts go live, we go live every Tuesday morning. I kick them out. And there's generally a Instagram, Facebook post that goes along with it. Mm-hmm. Interact, get in on the discussions, and let us know how your experience, how you learned from this, how you've dealt with it yourself. That'd be a lot of fun. We love to interact with everybody. That
would be awesome.
Yeah. And we're still kind of looking for somebody to work with the website. We've talked with a couple people, still kind of taking quotes and getting some brainstorm ideas.
Yes.
Web design is definitely not either of our forte. So we had some questions. We're like, what does that mean?
Right. Exactly.
I just want it to be pretty and work well.
Exactly. All I'm asking.
Yeah. So, we're still on the hunt for that. And we just thank you, everyone, for tuning in, sticking with us, and sharing. So share, subscribe, send it out to your friends and family, anyone that you feel like that would benefit from this. It means a lot and really helps us grow. yeah, I think we should hit 1,000 downloads by the end of the month.
That's
watching how
exciting.
everything trends. So to
Thank
us,
you,
that's a
Lord.
huge
That's
milestone.
awesome.
We'll let everyone know when we reach
Yes.
that. So
That is really cool.
yeah, stay tuned on social for when we break that mark. So
Yeah.
I guess
That's
with
awesome.
that, we'll just wrap everything up and
Yeah.
we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, sounds good. Everyone have a good rest of the week.